से संग ना पाया कांदे नरोत्तम दासा, से संग ना पाया वे नरोत्तम दासा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा हरे राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा जय नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर, जय नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर, जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद, जय जय प्रभु। श्री नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। So this is verse from Narottam Prabhu Rashtak, written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This is 7th stanza from Narottam Prabhu Rashtak. You can repeat after. Yad bhakti nishto palaraki keva, Yad bhakti nishto palarekhi keva, Sprusha punah sparshamani vayasya, Pramanyam shrutivad yadiyam, Pramanyam shrutivad yadiyam, Tasmai namah Srila Narottamaya, तस्मै नमः श्रीलनरोत्तमाय. Would anyone like to recite? यद्भक्तिनिष्ठो फलरैखिकैवा वर्षा पुनः सर्षमणि वयस्य नान्यमेवं श्रुतिवज्ञदीयम् तस्मै नमः श्रीलनरोत्तमाय. प्रामाण्यमेवं श्रुतिवद्यदीयम् तस्मै नमः श्रीलनरोत्तमाय. यद्भक्तिनिष्ठो फलरेखिकैव स्पर्शः पुनः स्पर्शमणि वयस्य प्रामाण्यमेवं श्रुतिवद्यदीयम् तस्मै नमः श्रीलनरोत्तमाय. Okay, so translation, please repeat after me. I repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Narottamdas Thakur, whose firm faith in devotional service to Krishna is like a necklace of precious jewels. His touch transforms like a touchstone, and his words are as authoritative as the four Vedas. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanscha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Namo Mahamadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratise Namaha Nityanandam Aham Naumi Sarvanandakaram Param Hari Nama Pradam Devam Avadhutam Shiromanim. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas so that I can glorify this stalwart devotee Narottamdas Thakur and purify my own heart. So you have your blessings for me. Thank you. Just like we say, गौरांगेरा संगी गणे नित्य सिद्धा गौरी माने, क्या होता है उनके साथ, से जावे ब्रजेंद्र सुतपाश. So Narottamdas Thakur is really a very special devotee. Just like Srila Prabhupada is not a regular Mahabhagavat. He's a Mahabhagavat of different category. Similarly, Narottamdas Thakur is not an ordinary, not even an ordinary associate of Lord Chaitanya. He's an exceptional associate of Lord Chaitanya. Once Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going with his Sankirtan party, playing the kartal, mridanga, all devotees were in ecstasy and they were jumping, dancing in great bliss. Some records say that it was near Kanai Natshala, somewhere near Kanai Natshala. And suddenly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked in a direction eastward, and he felt a surge of ecstasy. He started shouting, Narottam, Narottam. And his body went uncontrolled. His body started shivering. It became uncontrolled. He took help of Nityananda Prabhu, placed his hand on shoulder of Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu also tried to hold him. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finally collapsed to ground. And Nityananda Prabhu turned towards Vakreshwar Pandit and Haridas Thakur. So this has never happened. That Mahaprabhu shouting Narottam, Narottam and fainting. So Vakreshwar Pandit started singing Ram Bhajan, some glories of Lord Ramchandra given there. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back to his consciousness. He revived his consciousness. He turned to Nityananda and he said, Nitai, you and I have descended to distribute love of God. But very soon we will disappear. We'll go back. Then we'll distribute love of God. I have brought such precious commodity. But there is no inheritance to this. So then Nitai said, Nityananda Prabhu said, my dear Lord, you know the answer to your question. You are independent Swarat. You tell who will do that task. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I will give this task to Narottam, my devotee Narottam. And Nityananda Prabhu said, but none of your associates are called Narottam. I don't know any of your associate who is called Narottam. So Mahaprabhu said, he will soon appear in the future. Future prediction is made by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's why I'm saying that he was not even a regular associate of Lord Chaitanya. He was specially empowered to distribute love of Godhead. Mahaprabhu is entrusting him with love of Godhead. And then Nityananda Prabhu asked him, but how will he get your ecstasy and your love of God? So Mahaprabhu said, tomorrow morning you come with me and I will show you. So next morning they went to Padma river. And as soon as Mahaprabhu touched Padma river, there was surge of ecstasy in Padma river, and Padma river flooded the nearby shores. And one extraordinarily beautiful lady appeared from Padma river. All devotees folded their hands, but Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed her, O Padma, personified, Padma river personified, I am handing you the most precious asset that I have, love of my heart for Krishna. And you must transfer it to my devotee who is going to appear near you in Kheturi village. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this and she folded her hands and she said, but how will I identify him? You are giving me love of God, but how will I identify Narottam? And he said, just as today when I touched you, you experienced surges of ecstasy. When Narottam touches you, you will experience the same ecstasies. And that's how you will know that he is Narottam and is my special associate, empowered to distribute love of God. So then Padma said, if he's already empowered by you before his birth, And when he attains your love of God, and what will happen? Will his body contain that love of God? Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not reply to this question. So that was the special associate of Lord Chaitanya, Narottamdas Thakur. Today is his disappearance day, but I'll talk about his appearance pastime and few other pastimes from his biography. There is one very beautiful book written by Sheetala Mataji, the good wife of Harishwari Prabhu. She has done research which is based on Bhakti Ratnakar, Narottam Vilas, and Prema Vilas, and few unfinished books of Dr. O.B.L. Kapoor, Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur's disciple. So she has compiled all of them, and pastimes of Narottam Das Thakur in detail in this book. So let us see how much I remember from those. So in Kheturi village, the Jamindar was known as Krishnananda Datta, the great ancestor of Thakur Bhakti Vinod, Kedarnath Datta, the other day I was telling you. And this Krishnanand Datta was very wealthy, fabulously wealthy. Kheturi village was so prosperous that nobody had dearth of anything. Any seed you sow in the land, it would fructify and give fruits. The land was so fertile. People were so happy, so blissful. There was no excess heat or excess cold, no excess rains. Everything was just perfect in the village. Everybody was very happy. There was only one problem. The problem was that King Krishnanand Datta had no son. But he totally depended on Krishna. So he worshipped his deity, Lord Narayan. And in his heart of heart, he prayed, "My Lord, I have so much opulence. Shri Shri Nitai Gosundar Bhagwan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I have so much opulence. People are so happy. And this place, Kheturi, is so prosperous. But what is the use of all this if I don't have a son?" He was thinking like this. And then after worshipping Lord Narayan, he folded his palms and surrendered to Lord Narayan, saying that, "My dear Lord, if it is your will, I will die without son." He was totally surrendered soul to Lord Narayan. And after his worship, as he was sitting in veranda, he heard a voice which said, "Krishnanand Datta, soon you will beget an illustrious son who will be a great Vaishnava, and he will glorify your family all over." So Krishnanand Datta was thinking, was it a dream that I saw, or I was hallucinating? What was going on? No, but I am awake. I heard this voice. It was a prophetic voice. And in his ecstasy, he went and informed his wife, Narayani. So she was also very sad for not having son. So this is a problem of modern society. Brahmaji has created this creation in such a way that everything is perfect. So nowadays, either ladies don't marry till late age, or even if they marry, they don't have children. And because of that, they undergo so many mental problems, psychological problems. So it's given in the account that even Narayani was undergoing some mental problems because she had no children. When my mother was 29, she had 3 children. so, so children keep ladies busy, and and they are happy with that. Children are happy, taken care, and ladies are busy. But they are trying to replace it with artificial means and the suffering. So she was kind of facing some mental challenges because she had no child. When Krishnanand Datta informed her, she was very happy. And then few days later, an unexpected astrologer visited their house. And he also kind of confirmed or reconfirmed the same prophecy to both the couples, to this couple, both husband and wife. And then one day, when Narayani was sleeping, she saw in a dream that one child transferred through the body of Krishnanand Datta to her own body. She woke up and informed her husband that she saw the dream, a child transferring from his body to her body. Krishnanand Datta again folded his hand. He said, time and tide wait for none. We may desire, we may aspire, but it happens only when Krishna desires. काहे रे मनवा धीरज खोता, काहे रे मनवा रोए, अपना सोचा कुछ नहीं होता, वो सोचे तो होए. So when Krishna desires, then it happens. हमारे सोचने से कुछ नहीं होता, अपना सोचा कुछ नहीं होता. So he consoled her because they had heard the prophecy, it was reconfirmed by astrologer, but still they were not having a child. They were becoming very impatient to have the child. But Krishnananda Datta consoled his wife, Narayani. And by Krishna's mercy, few months later, she became pregnant. As she became pregnant, she was again feeling ecstasies because this child was not an ordinary child, it was a divine child. And on the Purnima of Magh Mas, that means January, February, Magh, and Purnima means full moon night. Morning 6 o'clock, the great child Narottam was born. Haribo. And King Krishnananda was so happy that he declared the festival in their entire kingdom. The sweets were distributed, milk was distributed, people were given profuse charity. Everyone, the whole village celebrated because Krishnananda Datta was like father to this entire village. After he was born, again astrologer was invited. So Prabhupada writes in 10th canto Bhagavatam, when Krishna was born and Gargacharya visited Nanda Maharaj in Gokul, Prabhupada writes in one purport that parents must know astrology. Like we think that Krishna consciousness is the supreme science, but there are also sciences around it which are useful. Basically, we should not prematurely try to become quote unquote transcendental. Yes, Krishna consciousness is supreme science and that is our goal. But then if our mind and body don't function well, we are not at bhava platform to perform bhakti steadily. We have to have our mind and body well situated. Then we can perform bhakti. So therefore, Prabhupada says that parents should know, father should know the astrology for the son. So astrologers were invited when Narottam was born. And he also kind of declared the great glory and grandeur for the child, the newborn child. But he also warned them, cautioned them, let this never child go near water bodies. If he ever went near water bodies, then he did not speak further. He just kept quiet. So they understood that they had to take the precaution of keeping the child in safe boundaries and not allowing him to go to near water bodies, especially Padma River. Like people say, I've heard that some parents say, बेटा किसी भी मंदिर चले जाना, ISKCON मंदिर मत जाना. कहीं पे भी जाना, ISKCON मंदिर मत जाना. यद गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते. So they were very careful in protecting him from going to water bodies. But one night, morning 2 o'clock, Narottam was feeling great urge to take bath in river. The pastime. So in early morning, actually 4 o'clock, without informing anyone, he entered Padma River. And as soon as he touched Padma River, there was again surges of ecstasy. The river personified Padma appeared and handed him love of God. And his body transformed into golden body. He was born as a dark complexion boy, but when he took bath in Padma River, it transformed into golden complexion, just like Lord Chaitanya's golden complexion. And not only that, when he came out of the river, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally appeared and embraced him. And when he was embraced by Lord Chaitanya, he just bathed himself, drenched himself in tears of ecstasy. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also was crying tears of ecstasy. So both were bathing each other in their tears. And after that, Narottam became uncontrollable in his Krishna consciousness. There was one Vaishnava who used to visit their village Kheturi, and he would speak about Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who by that time had disappeared. So uh, Narottam would, as a child, would hear with great absorption about Gaur Nitai from this Vaishnava, and he felt totally disinterested in everything in life. So parents were concerned. Parents were naturally concerned that he was not showing any interest in studies, although he was very intelligent. He was not showing any interest in their property, their assets, their state. He was only talking about Gaur Nitai all the time. So they became very concerned. And it's a long story, but to cut short, one day he felt so much irresistible temptation to go to Vrindavan because he had known that Lord Chaitanya's associates were living in Vrindavan, Rup and Sanatan. He wanted to meet them. And actually, Lord Chaitanya once appeared in his dream and told him to take initiation from Loknath Goswami. So Loknath Goswami was in Vrindavan and he wanted to go. And he had also heard the stories of Raghunath Das Goswami, Mahajano Yen Gata Sapantha. So he also escaped from his home. And when his father learned about his escape, father sent soldiers to get him back. So there is a beautiful account there. How he talks with these guards is amazing. He says, when these guards catch him to bring him back, he says, when a chaste woman's husband dies, passes away, she naturally feels world null and void. She naturally wants to enter the fire. She wants to become sati. And that is glorious on the part of that lady. But her relatives naturally feel that she would continue to live. They would not like to part with her. That is also natural for other relatives. So when a lady is trying to become sati, that's glorious. And her relatives are trying to dissuade her, that is also glorious. Both are glorious. So he said, I am burning in the separation of my Lord Chaitanya and I want to enter fire of Vrindavan. So I want to enter that fire. That is glorious. And you as my well-wishers, you want to stop me, you're also glorious. I mean, I am unable to speak those words as it is, but he spoke so emotionally that they started crying tears. They became so emotional, they took out some money from their pockets and gave him money for his future journey. You can go. And then, with great difficulty, he actually went to Vrindavan. You all know the story. And Vrindavan, again with great difficulty, he took initiation from Loknath Goswami, who was taken a vow to not give initiation to anyone. But Narottamdas Thakur cleaned the stool of Loknath Goswami every day morning. And once Loknath Goswami spied on him, learned about who was cleaning his stool, Loknath was into tears. He said, you are a prince and you are picking up my stool with your hands. How abominable this is. And Narottam simply cried. He said, if you don't accept me, then what is the value of my life? I should just end my life if you don't accept me. And there, Loknath Goswami melted. And after a few days, Loknath Goswami gave him initiation. Because his education was conducted by Jiva Goswami. So they were studying Narottamdas Thakur, Shyamanand Pandit and Srinivas Acharya. Their education were conducted by Srila Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami Educational Institute. So this is how it was going on. Then later on, upon Jiva Goswami's instruction, they had to come to Bengal back again because bhakti was taking high tides in Vrindavan, but it was depleting here back in uh, Bengal. So Jiva Goswami wanted Srinivas Acharya, Narottamdas Thakur and Shyamanand Pandit to go back to Bengal and Odisha and re-establish bhakti. And he also handed them a huge responsibility of carrying the literatures written by the Goswamis. So it is said that those days Raghunath Das Goswami was very old and he was living near Radha Kunda. He was very old and he was hardly able to maintain his body. But when he learnt about Narottam, Shyamananda and Srinivas Acharya leaving back for Bengal, he cried tears Is the same Raghunathdas Goswami who did not cry one tear when he left his beautiful wife, his wealthy empire, his father's estate. He left it like Malavata, like stool. But he was embracing them, crying in their separation. It's a very sublime and exalted emotion to cry in separation of a Vaishnava. Like we sang the song now, Pashane Kutibo Matha. If somebody hears it out of context, may think that Narottamdas Thakur is a psycho. He wants to beat his head on the stone. Anale Pashibol, enter the fire. What is this Vaishnavism? Sentimental love. It's a very sublime emotion that Raghunath Das Goswami was crying. And the books were packed. Again, one miracle happened. The books were packed. The first book to be placed in the potali, in that potli ko kya bolte hain? In that cloth was Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then other books were placed on top of it. And this cart was taken to Bengal. So this Narottamdas Thakur, Shyamanand Pandit and Srinivasacharya were traveling with the cart. They came to Vishnupur in Bengal. You know the story that the cart was stolen, the books were stolen. So later on, Srinivasacharya, who was eldest of them, instructed Narottam and Shyamanand Pandit to go ahead and he would stay and search for the books because the books were most priceless treasure that they had. They could not bear the separation from the books. He had to find those books. And then one fine day when some Panditas were debating, Srinivasacharya could not tolerate the blasphemy of bhakti. So he interrupted and defeated all of them. When he defeated them, the scholars informed the king, Bhirambir, of that place. So Bhirambir invited Srinivasacharya and heard from him. Bhirambir was so impressed by the eloquence and devotion of Srinivasacharya that Bhirambir accepted Srinivasacharya as his guru. And he asked for a Guru Dakshina. Gurudev, what Guru Dakshina can I give you? He said, Guru Dakshina, long back we had brought a bullock cart full of books, but we are not finding those books. He said, oh, those books are with us. I only stole them because my astrologer informed that you were carrying some priceless treasure. So I had to steal that. So when they opened that cloth, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was at the bottom, was found at the top. So Acharya's give commentary that Chaitanya Charitamrita is the cream of all Gaudiya literature. It's like malai. Malai hoti hai na, दूध में ऊपर आ जाती है. So it floated up on its own. The first book to be opened was Chaitanya Charitamrita. Anyway, so fast forward. Narottamdas Thakur came back to his native place, Kheturi, and instead of staying with his parents, of course his parents were in ecstasy that their son had returned back from Brahmachari ashram. And they were looking a match for him. Sounds familiar, right? But he declared that he would stay as avowed sannyasi or brahmachari, and he would only stay with them if they allowed him to preach Krishna consciousness. So they agreed. Instead of sending him far away, they would keep him near them in the same village. He constructed a hut near the palace of King Krishnanand Datta, his own father, and he stayed there. So then time passed, and as time passed, his glories also spread because his devotion knew no bounds. He used to compose Vaishnava songs just spontaneously. He's written so many Vaishnava songs and they are so ecstatic. Just by singing them, we feel so happy. So there are many pastimes, many anecdotes from their lives, but I'll especially quote 2 or 3. So one time, he was very fond of one disciple of Srinivas Acharya, whose name was Ramchandra Kaviraj. Ramchandra Sangha Mange Narottamdas. So Ramchandra Kaviraj. So they would always stay together in Khetudi village and they would preach all around, travel and preach all around. So one time they saw 2 boys, Hari Rama and Ramakrishna. They were from Ganeshpura, one village near Kheturi. And they were carrying few goats. It was almost this time, Navratre. So Durga Puja is performed and they were carrying two goats with them. So Narottam, it did not take long for Narottam and Ramchandra Kaviraj to understand that these goats were meant for sacrifice. So Narottam was feeling very sorry for these effulgent boys, and they had also applied this Shakta Tilak round. So Shaktas apply round tilak, Vaishnavas applied vertical tilak, and Shaivites apply horizontal tilak. So you can identify who they are. So they could identify that these were Shaktas and they were carrying the goats for sacrifice. And Narottam wanted to save them. And they started speaking between themselves so loud that that these boys could hear. And he said, how abominable it is that somebody has attained a human birth but doesn't know about Hari Bhakti and simply wastes his life in fruitive sacrifices. Now these boys were intelligent and they started giving some attention. And then somebody said, and even in the name of fruitive sacrifices, one is slaughtering the animals. How abominable it is. One doesn't understand that the greatest asset given in the scriptures is love of God, Hari Bhakti. One doesn't understand the happiness, the ecstasy that one derives by Hari Bhakti. So by this time, these boys become very curious. And then Narottam and Ramchandra Kaviraj, expert preachers. Preaching also requires different strategies. Sometimes you cannot directly tell a person that they are wrong. So you have to tell each other. I know two devotees in Delhi, they go for book distribution. Of course, I am not advocating it. I am not for it. But when they go for book distribution, so one devotee, actually, so they meet the new person, the one devotee over glorifies his associate. बोले ये वो हैं, इनको यहाँ पे गोल्ड मेडल मिला है, ये हुआ है, वो हुआ है. Of course, these are false glories. We should not do it. But then the new person, he becomes very impressed. Oh, I am meeting someone special. So different preaching strategies. And when these two boys heard Narottam and Ramchandra Kaviraj, they became very impressed. They said, yes, yes, we want to know what is most valuable treasure given in the scriptures. And Ramchandra Kaviraj and Narottamdas Thakur in detail preached to them. Just one time preaching, full-time devotees. एक बार preaching किया, full-time devotees. They became so impressed, so influenced that they released the goats right there. And they decided not to go back to their father's goat sacrifice. Ami ghare na jaibo, bane thakibo. And then Narottamdas Thakur and Ramchandra Kaviraj requested them to go back to their father, but they said no. Without receiving Krishna consciousness, our life is a waste. We have now understood that we wasted our life already. So we want to stay with you. So for 10 days, they stayed in Kheturi village. And morning, when they would see Narottamdas Thakur chanting his japa, and it is said that when Narottamdas Thakur would chant, he would not talk to anyone. He would just close his eyes, sit at one place and just become absorbed in japa. When they saw his purity, with how much love and ecstasy he would worship the deities, his compassion, his concern for all the creatures, they became totally transformed just in 10 days. 10 days were totally transformed. And then Narottamdas Thakur and Srinivas Acharya instructed them to go to their village, lest their parents should be concerned. So they returned to their village. Now they were applying Vaishnava Tilak, not that Shakta Tilak. So their father, whose name was, anyone knows whose name? Can't recollect. No, that was not his father. Anyway, so his father was very concerned to see that his children have become Vaishnava. He said, what abominable activity you have done? You have become Vaishnavas. You are born in glorious Shakta family and you have given up your tradition. We are Brahmanas. And on top of that, they added insult to the injury. They said, we have taken initiation from Narottamdas Thakur and Ramchandra Kaviraj. Actually, Hari Ram, the elder brother, had taken initiation from Narottamdas Thakur. And the younger brother, Ram Krishna, had taken initiation from Ramchandra Kaviraj. So he said, you have spoiled the reputation of our family. We are Brahmanas and you have taken initiation from Shudra. Where is it written in the scriptures that Brahmanas will take initiation from the Shudras? Now we cannot show our face to anyone in the society. And to this, these two boys only laughed. So there was argument between father and sons. So father understood that they are permanently damaged. And father did not dare to argue with them further. So father said, okay, if you are so confident of your convictions, I will invite the Brahmanas. And if you can defeat them, then I'll accept that you are true Vaishnavas. And they were also prepared. So very stalwart, scholarly, very learned Brahmanas were invited, and there were debates. So because they were very young boys, they first listened, the duty of Brahmanas, the Varnashram structure, and how Brahmanas are the topmost, this and that, and they just listened. When the Brahmanas were finished, the Hari Ram folded his hand and he said, it is not appropriate for younger ones to argue with the elders. But since you have all gathered, let me present my points. And if I am right, please appreciate. If I am wrong, please correct me. So he very gently presented himself. So when Hari Ram started speaking, quoting from different scriptures, how Vaishnavas are so pure, even if they are born in the family of dog eaters, what to speak of family of Shudras. They are still exalted and they can deliver the whole world. And they were quoting from one scripture after another and they were giving different arguments. All Brahmanas were dumb silent. There was no answer to their questions. Nobody could object what they were presenting. And it was established that, that Krishna consciousness was the highest treasure in the scriptures. None of them spoke anything after that. When they convinced these Brahmanas, they again left for Kheturi. Just to give a report to their guru, how this thing had happened. After some time, they became themselves very active preachers. So once they went to one village called Kampali, like Kampali. And in that village, there was one Brahmana whose name was Ganga Narayan Chakravarti. He is also the great grandfather of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comes in his lineage. So this Ganga Narayan Chakravarti met Hari Ram and Ramakrishna. By that time, they were so effulgent, they were so ecstatic, and their convictions was radiating from their bodies. So Ganga Narayan Chakravarti, the news of Hari Ram and Ramakrishna defeating the assembly of Brahmanas had spread like wildfire around all the villages. So Ganga Narayan Chakravarti was thinking in his mind, maybe these two boys must be Hari Ram and Ramakrishna. Because they are so confident, so effulgent, and they had also applied Vaishnava Tilak. So when Ganga Narayan Chakravarti saw them, he said, you two people are disgustable. You have spoiled the dignity of your family by accepting a Shudra as your guru. So he was also reprimanding them. When when this Ram Krishna and Hari Ram heard this, then again there was a presentation. So they also presented their philosophy very logically, quoting from scriptures one after another. And just as they had convinced the assembly of Brahmanas, Ganga Narayan Chakravarti was also convinced. So Ganga Narayan Chakravarti was externally pretending that he was right, that Brahmanas were higher, and that these two boys were defaulter. But internally he was convinced. In heart of heart, he was secretly respecting them. So the debate started in the morning, but by evening, Ganga Narayan Chakravarti submitted. He burst into tears. He was an honest person. He burst into tears and he said, I wasted my life debating with people. What is the use of remembering so many shlokas from scriptures if you are not happy? And how can I experience this Krishna consciousness? I've heard everything from you. It's one thing to know the theory, but it's another thing to experience Krishna consciousness, feeling for Krishna. So Hari Ram and Ramakrishna very appropriately answered. So you can know the theory from us, but you can only experience Krishna consciousness when you get the dust from the lotus feet of Thakur Mahashay, Narottamdas Thakur. He said, I am so abominable. I have always blasphemed Narottam. Will you ever accept me? I just regret my life. I have not only wasted my life in scholarly pursuit, but I have also blasphemed these Vaishnavas, especially Ramchandra, Kaviraj, and Narottamdas Thakur. Will you ever accept me? So at this, Hari Ram and Ramakrishna smiled. They were very happy to see the humble, submissive attitude of Ganga Narayan Chakravarti. So so they said, tomorrow morning we are going to Kheturi. You can come with us. And he was hesitant, but then he decided to go with them. So next day morning, when they went to Kheturi, Narottamdas Thakur was chanting his japa. And when he was chanting his japa, it is written that the effulgence was radiating from his body. It appeared that suns have arisen inside the temple hall. So effulgent. Seeing him, Ganga Narayan Chakravarti burst into tears. When he cried tears, Narottam's trance broke. He opened his eyes. Narottamdas Thakur opened his eyes and he said, who is this? Why are you crying? And then he submitted. He said, I've wasted my life. Guru Maharaj, I wasted my life just blaspheming you, criticizing Vaishnavas. I don't know what my destination would be. If you don't accept me today, my life is useless. So saying this, he surrendered his life to Narottamdas Thakur. Narottamdas Thakur simply lifted him up and embraced him. And actually before that, one thing happened. So that night, when they had not arrived to Kheturi, I forgot to mention, they were in their own native village, Kamphali. Narottamdas Thakur had appeared in the dream of Ganga Narayan Chakravarti. And Narottamdas Thakur had told him, you come to me tomorrow, I will give you initiation. In the dream itself. So he was very confident and therefore he came to Kheturi. And when he saw in Kheturi, same person who appeared in his dream was sitting there. It's like Facebook, which did not exist those days, but dream book. In dream book, he had seen Narottamdas Thakur. So this is how Ganga Narayan Chakravarti was transformed. Later on, there was agitation again in Brahmana community. That when Shudra was initiating Brahmanas now, first the two brothers, Hari Ram and Ramakrishna, now even Ganga Narayan Chakravarti was the crest jewel of all Brahmanas. He was very learned and very renowned all over. Now he had accepted Narottamdas Thakur as his master and lord. This talk also spread like wildfire. So the Brahmana community was very badly agitated. So they gathered together. Not only they gathered together, but they stormed into the palace of King Narsingha. Dev. I mean, this not Narsingha Dev, Lord Narsingha Dev, but he was the local king there. And they lodged complaints against Narottam that he was initiating local Brahmanas and all that. So this king was very considerate and he wanted to probe before coming to any conclusion. So he said, okay, if this is so, then let Narottam prove his point. You say that a Shudra cannot initiate others. Only Brahmanas have that duty, that adhikar, that authority, not others. Then let us have a debate with Narottamdas Thakur. So Brahmana said, okay, let us go to debate Kheturi. So they started for Kheturi. And this news came to Narottamdas Thakur, who was unhappy to hear the news. Because he didn't want to waste his time in useless debates. Who is better? Brahmanas are better, Vaishnavas are better. He didn't want to use his time in that. Ganga Narayan Chakravarti and Hari Ram observed the disgust on the face of Narottamdas Thakur. Therefore, they wanted to dodge it before it came to Narottam Das Thakur. So they themselves disguised as shopkeepers and they moved far from Kheturi on the way to Brahmanas' march. So they had expected that Brahmanas would take a rest in the night at one place and there they opened a shop. So Ganga Narayan Chakravarti became a pan leaf seller And Hari Ram became potter, Kumhar. And when one of the Pandit in the morning came to market to purchase different things, vegetables, fruits, grocery for their cooking, so Hari Ram started speaking in fluent Sanskrit with this Pandit. And this Pandit was amazed. And not only that, not only Hari Ram was a potter, but even pan leaf seller, Ganganaran Chakravarti, he was also speaking in fluent Sanskrit. So this Pandit was amazed and he was speaking, he spoke to Hari Ram, what village is this where even potters and pan leaf sellers speak Sanskrit? So he said, we are just insignificant, tiny, puny disciples of Narottamdas Thakur. If you talk to our Guru, he is vastly learned. And this Pandit became disgusted hearing this. He went back to his camp, said, okay, you have defeated me. I'll bring a greater scholar, greater Pandit. So the group of Pandit came to debate with Hari Ram and Ganganarayan Chakravarti, who were disguised as shopkeepers. And Ganganarayan Chakravarti, Hari Ram, they, you know what I was trying to say. Kadakpur days. So Hari Ram, they very easily influenced Sanskrit, defeated all of them, and it happened publicly in front of all scholars. So these Brahmanas, these Pandits, were insulted publicly, and it was too much for them to bear. They returned back to their camp, and they furiously reported to the king, Narsingha. This king also had a very exalted Pandit whose name was Rupnarayan. So Rupnarayan was considered the king of all these Panditas who Narsingha had brought with him. So if Narottam could defeat in Rupnarayan, then Narottam's stand could be considered perfect. That was the idea of King Narsingha. When Rupnarayan heard from these Panditas, he said, do you have honesty and integrity to accept for things as they are? Don't you now understand that Narottam is the purest soul present on the planet? Don't you accept that that Krishna consciousness, that crest jewel of scriptures, is not the birthright of Brahmanas? Don't you accept that Supreme Personality of Godhead loves everyone equally? So to hear this, the Panditas were further agitated. Said, oh, you have come with us, but it appears that secretly you take their side. He said, no, I can tell you from my personal experience. Many years back, when I was a young, proud Pandit, I myself went boasting my glories to Vrindavan. And I had challenged Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. But they did not give me any heed. So I challenged them in debate, but they simply signed their defeat. Vijay Patrika. That they were defeated. And my head went further higher in the sky. And my pride was swelling. It was about to burst out of my body. But on the bank of Yamuna, I met another young scholar whose name was Jiva Goswami. He challenged me into defeat. And I showed them Vijay Patrika that your Guru, Rupa and Sanatan, they had accepted defeat from me. Who are you? And Jiva Goswami said, because they were busy, they accepted defeat. But you sit with me and debate with me, then I will teach you. So this debate was not just a debate, but it went into heated argument, Rup Narayan says. But then Rup Narayan says, Jiva Goswami very humbly, politely proved to me his own point, and I surrendered myself to Jiva Goswami. I went back to Sanatan Goswami, fell at his feet, and that time Sanatan Goswami prophesied that later on you will accept initiation from Narottamdas Thakur. And since that day I have been waiting for this Narottam. In the pretext of arguing on your behalf with Narottam, I came with you. But my real desire is to surrender my life to Narottamdas Thakur. So this was going on. But there were still obstinate Panditas who were not willing to submit. So King Narsingh took out his sword. Said, you still have some doubts about the purity of Narottam. Why don't you surrender? Why do you retain your pride and vanity when everything is proven so clearly? Said, yes, tomorrow we'll go to Kheturi, but not to debate, but to surrender our lives to Narottamdas Thakur. So next day, when they went, Narottamdas Thakur accepted all of them. as his disciples. But time is up, but I have another short story to tell. Should I continue? Okay, then one more, another amazing story. This is also another story of transformation. So by this, when King Narsingh, all his ministers, all his scholars became disciples of Narottam Thakur's glories spread far and wide further. Actually, when Britishers came to India, they were surprised to see that in practically every house in Bengal, there were deities of Gaur Nitai. And even if you go to any temple in traditional old Bengali temple, may it be temple of Kali or Durga, you'll see Hare Krishna Mahamantra outside. This was the result of rampant preaching of Narottamdas Thakur and his disciples. So later on, when Narottam was ecstatically performing his bhajan, and he had also organized a grand Kheturi festival on Gaur Purnima, where Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Srivas Thakur had personally appeared and danced in front of public eyes. Anyone could see them as they are. So this had happened, everyone had observed. After some days, Narottamdas Thakur received a letter. It was letter from one man whose name I again forget. So he was a jamindar again from another place, and he had written in a letter that his son was haunted by a Brahma Rakshas. His son's name was Chand Roy. So this Chand Roy, you must have heard about Jagai and Madhai. But this Chand Roy was Jagai Madhai plus. Jagai Madhai were sinning, but they did not have assistance. This Chand Roy had an infantry of 10,000 soldiers and 5,000 horses. They would go on horses and infantry to villages, loot the villages, rape the women, and drink liquor and eat meat. So it was an organized crime, not like Jagai and Madhai. Jagai and Madhai were not organized. They were spontaneous. but Chand Roy was organized criminal. And he was so cruel that nothing affected him. No good advice affected him. Their father was trying to dissuade them from sinful activities since long, but they did not hear. His younger brother Santosh Rai was also like him. Both of them were like him. Both of them were alike. And then later on, he was haunted by a Brahma Rakshas. His body had become emaciated. It was only bag of bones. His skin had become pale, and he was about to leave his body. So out of concern for his son, the father had sent a letter to Narottamdas Thakur, because an astrologer had informed that his son could only be saved if the stalwart Vaishnava Narottamdas Thakur placed his feet in their home. So Narottamdas Thakur, when read this letter, Hari Ram said, sounds like Jagai and Madhai. Ram Krishna, his younger brother, said, no, they are more than Jagai and Madhai. So Narottamdas Thakur was thinking whether I should go for this or not. So preaching means so many other things. Preaching doesn't mean simply teaching people Hare Krishna. 90% of preaching is counseling, solving problems. So Narottamdas Thakur was thinking, I am a Babaji, I have come back to my home village just to give Krishna consciousness to other. Should I take this step to go to village to free a person from Brahma Rakshas or not? He closed his eyes and suddenly heard a voice from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you are Karuna Avatar. You are Avatar of my mercy. And it is your duty to deliver everyone. You must show compassion to everyone. You must go and deliver him. When he heard this, tears dripped down his eyes. He opened his eyes and turned to his associates, Ganga Narayan Chakravarti and others. He said, tomorrow morning we are going to house of Chand Roy. The next day morning, they reached the house. As they reached the house, the father of Chand Roy could identify Narottamdas Thakur with his appearance and effulgence. He fell flat at the feet of Narottamdas Thakur. And he said, my lord, you are the only one who can save our family. We are in great turmoil. My son was a dacoit and a cruel sinner. Now he's suffering for his sins. But as a father, I can't tolerate it. If it is your wish, please deliver my son. So without saying anything, Narottamdas Thakur was leading a kirtan, entered their house. And as he entered their house, the villagers gathered around, peeping from the windows inside what was going to happen. And this Chand Roy was unconscious, lying on the bed. He was totally emaciated, about to die on his deathbed. So father lifted Chand Roy and said to him, look, look, your Guru Maharaj has come. So Chand Roy by this time had hardly any strength to look at Narottamdas Thakur. But when he looked, he felt a surge of relief, a sigh of relief. Then Narottamdas Thakur himself stepped forward and caught shoulders of not soldier but shoulders of Chand Roy, and he said, "Why are you doing this?" So instead of Chand Roy speaking, the ghost started speaking. He said, "I have been suffering in this ghostly body for tens and dozens of years, and I always wanted your shelter. If you please deliver me from this sinful ghostly body, then I'll be eternally grateful to you. I want to go with you tomorrow to Keturi." The ghost was speaking. So Narottamdas Thakur said, "Now you relieve him and come with me to Keturi." Actually, compassion has no language. When I was hearing, I was feeling so light. Please read this book. I was feeling so light after reading this pastime. Actually, compassion surpasses all other rules and regulations, and compassion only touches the heart. The scholarly words, the shlokas that we quote, okay, they have some meaning because we should also be equipped with knowledge. But knowledge becomes stale after some time. If our purpose of our spiritual life is just to acquire knowledge, we'll come to an end. We'll come to a full stop. But purpose of our spiritual life is to develop compassion, concern for others. Then we can experience real spiritual life. So then Narottamdas Thakur, when the ghost agreed, ghost was speaking, yes, I will come with you to Keturi. Everyone shouted, Hari Bol! Everyone was so happy that Chand Roy was delivered from his sinful life. Not only Chand Roy, but the ghost also. Two persons were delivered simultaneously. So Narottamdas Thakur stayed there in the village for some time, and Chand Roy also recovered in his health. Narottamdas Thakur performed ecstatic Harinam Sankirtan around that village. When he was about to leave the village, entire village came to see him off. Everyone was crying tears. No one wanted to be part with Narottamdas Thakur. So when we hear this, imagine what kind of personality Narottamdas Thakur must be. Just going near that person, you just become free from all anxiety. क्या है सब कुछ तो अच्छा ही है. Feel so relieved, you feel so happy, isn't it? Pray to Gaur-Nitai that he turns all of us into an instrument into the hands of Narottamdas Thakur. So a whole entire village came and they saw off Narottamdas Thakur and his team with tears. Chand Roy, his father and his brother also escorted Narottamdas Thakur to Keturi. They stayed in Keturi for months. They also took training. They also became Vaishnavas. Actually, Narottamdas Thakur initiated the entire family and then sent them back to their village. Then few months passed, and later on, I'll complete with this pastime. Later on, they received another letter from the father of Chand Roy. And in this letter, there was another concern. So father writes that you had given us life back, but we are again in the middle of turmoils. It has so happened that since my son was so sinful, he earned so much enmity with people, and the local Pathan captured him. He allowed himself to be captured without any defense, because now he's become a humble Vaishnava. He did not even defend himself. So king, this Pathan had made captive my son into a dungeon underground. And my son has been fasting for days. We don't know what to do. So becoming a guru means this solving problems. So Narottamdas Thakur, as compassion personified, he consulted another Jamindar who had some influence over Pathan. So this Jamindar prepared himself to go and meet Pathan, but Pathan refused to relieve Chand Ghazi. Chand Roy, not Chandkazi, Chand Roy. So Narottamdas Thakur was again concerned. But after a few days, Chand Roy himself came to meet Narottamdas Thakur in Kheturi. So Narottamdas Thakur inquires from Chand Roy what had conspired within these days. So then Chand Roy explains. He said, I was made captive in a dungeon underground, and my father hired a tantric who could travel inside the walls, who had no boundaries, who could travel anywhere. And this tantric came to me inside the dungeon and said, your father has sent me only, and I can relieve you if you chant this Kali mantra. You and I can be out of this dungeon, out of this prison, if you chant this Kali mantra. It said, my Gurudev has given me Krishna mantra. I will not chant any other mantra. I will stay in the dungeon. I will die, but I will not do this. I refuse to accept his help. And my father became angry on me because I was not accepting their help. So when the king, the Pathan was also pressurizing Chand Roy to become Muslim. Pathan said, if you don't become Muslim, we'll kill you. And to this, Chand Roy was simply chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This further irritated Pathan. This further irritated Pathan. I am threatening him, I am keeping him hungry for many days, but this person is not giving up his determination. I'll do something extraordinarily dangerous for him. So he threatened Chand Roy, if you don't become Muslim, I will throw you in front of a drunk elephant. So Chand Roy just kept chanting. He didn't bother about the threats. And one day the Pathan arranged for this. He wanted to make it a public statement that if anyone did not accept his religion, they would be punished like this. Chand Roy was kept inside the stadium, and a mad elephant who was intoxicated on liquor was released to crush him. So as elephant was approaching, Chand Roy just kept chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And the elephant was approaching. Elephant had huge tusk. Now this is elephant 400 years old. Larger than today's elephants. Had huge tusk. The innocent people were crying because they knew that Chand Roy had now become Trinadapi Sunni Chena. He would not even defend himself. And the cruel people were, it was an entertainment for them, for the cruel people. So elephant was approaching him, and as soon as the elephant was inches closer to Chand Roy, elephant himself collapsed dead on the ground. Dhad. And the innocent people shouted in joy, Hari Bol! By this time, Pathan was trembling in fear. And Pathan ordered his soldiers. Now this account is related by Chand Roy himself to Narottamdas Thakur. So Chand Roy says, by this time Pathan was fearful. And the Pathan said, let us release this person now. Because if we don't release him, then Allah may further throw calamities on us. So let us release him and let us not become victim of wrath of Allah. Let us release him. And as soon as they released me, I have just come to surrender my life to you again. So this is how Narottamdas Thakur was so compassionate, so considerate. Today is disappearance day. I could not come to disappearance pastime. That was another pastime. Just to end, towards his disappearance, he was simply chanting Hare Krishna. His disciples wanted to invite doctors, physicians, but he refused to meet any physician. Rather, he told them to bring him, his body to Ganga river. Ganga, na? Padma river. Okay, Padma river. And he instructed them to bathe him. He instructed them to bathe him. And as they were bathing him, the water that touched his body turned into milk. So his body eventually turned into milk and merged with Padma. He did not leave a body. It just turned into milk and merged with Padma river. That's how he disappeared. His appearance, his activities, and his disappearance are all transcendental. It's like Krishna's Janma Karma Cha Me Divyam. Evam Yo Veti Tatvata. So we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has given us entrance into the life of such great stalwart acharyas. By hearing about them, our heart becomes soft, purified, our anarthas go far away, and we develop a desire to cultivate genuine, pure devotional service. So let us offer our respectful obeisances to Narottamdas Thakur by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Shri Narottamdas Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.